Hello, we're going to talk about STA 2023 Chapter 3, Section 3.2, entitled What's Unusual, Empirical Rule in Z-Scores. So first of all, we're going to talk about normal distributions. When I say normal, I mean symmetric. Normal, symmetric. Normal, symmetric. And when we look at normal curves, the symbol for normal would be a large N, and then this would be the mean, and this would be the standard deviation. Now, first of all, these symbols may be a little new to you because we're used to mean being X bar and standard deviation being S, but we'll talk about that soon. But when we look at this, if you look at normal curves over and over and over again, we notice there's a pattern. And that pattern is the empirical rule, a rough guideline, a rule of thumb, that helps us understand how the standard deviation measures variability. It's called the 68, 95, 99.7 rule. 68, 95, 99.7 rule, which means 68% of the observations will fall within one standard deviation of the mean, 95% of observations will fall within two standard deviations of the mean, and 99.7% of the observations will fall within three standard deviations of the mean. So we have some pictures here, but this will make sense once we started getting into it. But let's talk about those symbols again. So when we talk about mean, we're used to X bar, and that is mean, but that is for sample mean, not everybody in the population, just a sample. So if we're talking about the sample mean, we use X bar. What we're using is mu, and mu is the population mean, the average of everyone in the population. Same thing for standard deviation. We have the symbol S, which is totally correct for standard deviation, but that is sample standard deviation. If we're talking about the population standard deviation, we use our symbol sigma, which is like a circle with a little hat on it. Okay, so we're going to do an example, and hopefully all of this will make more sense. So the distribution of young women aged 18 to 24 is approximately normal with a mean of 64 inches, 5'4", and a standard deviation of 2.5 inches. So in order to understand this in this problem, we're going to go ahead and bring in a picture. And here is our information again, where the distribution's normal, where the population mean is 64 inches, and the population standard deviation is 2.5. So what we'll do is we'll draw a normal curve because it's normal, and we'll put the mean in the center, 64 inches. The mean in the center, 64 inches. So we're going to go one standard deviation to the left and one standard deviation to the right. So what does that mean? That means we're in the center, 64 inches. I'm going to subtract 2.5, and I'm going to add 2.5. That's one standard deviation to the left, subtracting 2.5, plus 2.5 would be one standard deviation to the right. So the empirical rule says that 68% of females, remember the rule, 68, 95, 90.7, 68% of females will fall within one standard deviation. So between 61.5 and 66.5. Sorry, that's cut off a little bit. That's one standard deviation. If we go two standard deviations, so we're going to subtract another 2.5, and we're going to add another 2.5, and notice the entire curve's 100%. This is 68. But if we go two standard deviations to the left and two standard deviations to the right, now we have 95% of females are between 59 inches and 69 inches. Then we're going to go three standard deviations. So we're going to subtract 2.5 three times. You get 56.5, and three standard deviations to the right, 71.5. Now notice there's still a little space here and a little space here because it's 99.7, not 100%, because there are women that are shorter than 56.5 inches, and there are women that are taller than 71.5 inches. And just to give you a frame of reference, 72 would be 6 feet. So that's just rare, right? So looking at the numbers, this chart needs to make sense to answer all the questions. So again, first we put the 64 in the center, add 2.5, subtract 2.5. 68% of women will fall between 61.5 and 66.5. Subtract 2.5, add 2.5. Two standard deviations is 95% of women will fall between 59 inches and 69 inches. Subtract another 2.5, add another 2.5. 99.7% of females will fall between 56.5 inches and 71.5 inches. So this has to really make sense first before we can move on. So once we have that, we can answer some questions. So the first question is, what percent of females are between 59 and 69 inches. So we can go ahead and bring our picture back in. Between 59 and 69 inches is 95%. So 95% of females are between 59 and 69. Now, these are going to get a little harder, so here's what I recommend for all of these. Step 1, draw the picture. So first thing we do, label the mean as 64, and then we find 59. Notice 59 is 2 standard deviations. So I don't want to draw this picture over and over again. So what I do is I have 2 lines to the left, and then 69 is 2 lines to the right. Then we're looking for between, so I shade everything between. Now this picture is very important. Number 1, it shows that you understand what's going on, and we know it's going to be a big percent. I've shaded much of the 100% curve. So when I get 95%, the picture matches the answer. Okay? Same thing for the next one. What percent of females are between 56.5 inches and 71.5 inches? So again, I go to my chart. 56.5 is 1, 2, 3 standard deviations to the left. 71.5 is 1, 2, 3 standard deviations to the right. So my picture, again, we're going to draw a picture because it will get harder. 64 is in the center. 56.5 is 3 standard deviations to the left. 71.5 is 3 standard deviations to the right. Shade everything in the middle. We shaded a lot of the curve. So 98.7% of females are between 56.5 and 71.5. So it seems pretty easy so far, but it will get harder. Okay? So let's move on to the next question. Oh, and here's a picture, which I already got for you. So the next question says, what percent of females are less than 66.5 inches? So again, go to our chart. There's 64 in the center. We're looking for 66.5, which is 1 standard deviation to the right. So here's what we do. Again, start with drawing the picture. 64 is in the center, 64 is in the center, and 66.5 is 1 standard deviation to the right, and we're looking for everything less than. So we shade everything to the less than side. Okay? So again, we have all of this is what we're looking for. It's a larger percent, so if I got something like 10%, I know it's wrong. And instead of trying to find the whole thing at once, notice that we look at it in pieces. We're going to find the left side, and we're going to find the right side. Okay, so we're looking at this in pieces. So first of all, if we look at the left side, we notice that, oh, that's half of the graph. So the left side of the mean is 50%, half of the graph. The trickier part is to find this piece here. Now there's several ways of doing it, but here's the way I think is the best. Remember, we're only looking at this section here. We're only looking at this section here. Okay? So 66.5 falls in the 68. But remember, 68 goes from this side all the way to the other side. All the way to the other side. I'm just looking for this piece. So I don't want to go the whole way. I'm only going half. Half. So it's not 68. It is half of 68, which is 34. So again, what we're doing is we're looking at it in pieces. This is 50. We've now figured out this is 34. So we add the two. 84% of females are less than 66.5 inches. Okay, let's practice that. Next one. What percent of females are more than 59 inches? More than 59 inches. So again, go to our large picture. 59 is 2 standard deviations to the left, and we're looking for everything more than. So we draw the picture first, label the 64, 2 standard deviations to the left, shade everything more than. Again, we have the right side and we have the left side. So on the right side, that is half the graph. That's 50%. On the left side, 59 falls in the 95%. But remember, 95% is from here all the way to the other side, all the way to the other side. I'm only looking for this piece here. Okay? So what we're going to do, instead of all of 95, I'm only going halfway. So half of 95 is 47.5. 47.5 plus 50 is 97.5. Okay? So looking at the next example. Now we're going to do between 59 inches and 66.5 inches. So a little more difficult, but 59 is 2 standard deviations away. 66.5 is 1 standard deviation to the right. So 59 is 2 standard deviations to the left. 66.5 is 1 standard deviation to the right. Draw the picture first, draw the picture first, draw the picture first. So we're looking for this area here. 59 falls in the 95%, but remember, we're not doing the whole 95. We're only going halfway. 66.5 falls in the 68, but we're not doing the whole 68. We're only going halfway. So again, if we're looking for this piece here, that's not the whole 95. It's only half of 95, which is 49.7. And if I'm looking for this piece here, that's not the whole 68. That's only half of 68, which is 34. Add them up, 81.5. So we'll look at a couple more examples. Again, these are the trickier ones. So again, 61.5 and 71.5 going to the chart. 61.5 is 1 standard deviation to the left. 71.5 is 3 standard deviations to the right. Looking for everything in between. When I find this side here, notice it falls in the 68% group, but I'm only going halfway. 71.5 falls in the 99.7, but I'm only going halfway. That's 49.85. Add them up. 83.85% of females are between 61.5 inches and 71.5 inches. And the next one, 66.5 and 69.5. This one's interesting because if you look at the graph, 66.5 is 1 standard deviation to the right. 69 is 2 standard deviations to the right, and we're looking for between them. So in here, we're looking for this small piece here. Small piece here. But again, same method. Edge of the shaded to the center, edge of the shaded to the center. So 66.5 falls in the 68 interval, divided by 2, that's 34, not shaded. Keep that in mind. 69 falls within the 95% interval, halfway is 47.5. But common sense is telling us we're not going to add these two numbers, because remember, 47.5 is shaded and not shaded. 64 is not shaded at all. So if you truly understand this, I'm not going to add these two numbers. I'm actually going to subtract these two numbers, which is a small piece, which is what we're looking for, which makes sense. You get 13.5% of females are between 66.5 inches and 69 inches. Okay, the last two I'm going to go through quickly because it's more of a definition, but the word percentile. If I said, what percentile does a height of 69 inches fall? The word percentile means below, below, below. So I label my 64, my center. 69 is 2 standard deviations to the right. If I'm looking for below, that would be all of this. Remember, our method is to go from edge of the shaded to the center. That's 50%, half the graph. Edge of the shaded to the center. That falls in the 95, but we're only going halfway, so that's 47.5. Add the two numbers. If you are 69 inches tall, 5'9", you're in the 50 plus 47.5, 97.5th percentile. And then the last question says, what heights do the middle 99.7% of women fall? Some people get confused by the word middle. Remember, they're all in the middle. The middle 68, the middle 95, the middle 99.7. So if I was looking for the middle 99.7, that would be 56.5 to 71.5. Okay, we're going to do another example and you can practice.